What you don't show is what makes you powerful. You're in a room. Someone says something that deserves a punch, but you don't flinch, you don't explain, you don't react. And that silence becomes the loudest voice in the room. What if your power isn't in how much you feel, but in what you don't show? What if silence isn't absence, but command? Because in a world that rewards overreaction, oversharing and emotional noise, the one who withholds wins. The one who knows when to stay quiet, when to keep it inside, when not to give the world immediate access to their emotions. That person becomes unreadable, unshakable, undeniably powerful. Emotional withholding isn't suppression, it's strategy. And today, you'll learn how to use it. Why withholding is power. Let me tell you something most people miss. In high-level rooms, in boardrooms, negotiations, elite-level decision-making, the person who holds back the most usually holds the most power. There's a story. An executive, sharp, calculated, gets publicly challenged, insulted, provoked. All eyes lock on him, waiting for the reaction, waiting for ego, waiting for fire. But he doesn't flinch. He doesn't explain. He just sits there, still, silent, watching. And in that moment, something shifts. People don't see weakness, they feel control. Because when you don't hand people your emotions on demand, when you don't perform every feeling like it needs to be seen, you become unpredictable, unreadable, and that is power. See, we've been conditioned to believe that real strength is about expression. Say what you feel. Be transparent. Show your heart. And sure, sometimes that's needed. But what no one teaches you is the power of restraint. The ability to feel something deeply and choose not to show it. To think, not now, not here, not for them. That's not hiding. That's leadership. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. And that's what this video is about. Not just managing your emotions, but mastering when, where, and if they deserve to be seen at all. You're about to learn 6 Stoic strategies of emotional withholding. To move smarter, respond slower, and become impossible to manipulate. Let's begin with the first shift. Why not every feeling deserves a stage? Strategy 1. Not every feeling deserves a performance. Here's the brutal truth most people never confront. We don't process emotions, we perform them. Like actors in a play we didn't write. You feel a rush of anger, you have to speak. You feel disrespected, you have to respond. You feel hurt, you need them to know. Because we've been trained to believe that every emotion must be externalized. That silence equals dishonesty. That withholding equals repression. That if you don't express it, you're not being real. But what if the real strength is not in showing it, but in choosing what's worth showing? Let me give you a scene. You're in a conversation with someone close. They say something careless, maybe even cruel, something that hits right in your soft spot. Your chest tightens, your jaw locks, that fire rises. Now your instincts scream, say something, defend yourself, let them know. But imagine this, you feel the emotion fully and still choose not to perform it. Not yet, not here, not for them. You hold it, like a warrior holds a sword, not to suppress, but to decide if it even needs to be drawn. That moment, where you choose presence over performance, that's Stoic control. Marcus Aurelius didn't react to everything. He watched his impulses like wild animals in a cage. He studied them before releasing a single word. Because here's the strategy. Not every feeling deserves airtime. Not every wave deserves a surfboard. Ask yourself, what am I trying to prove by reacting? Would silence serve me better? Is this expression for clarity or just comfort? And here's the truth. Most emotional performances aren't truth, they're habit, learned scripts, reflexes trained by childhood, culture, or chaos. But when you pause the performance, you interrupt the pattern, you buy time, you take the spotlight off your feelings and put it back on your frame. Try this. Next time you feel the urge to react, don't. Breathe. Say to yourself, I don't need to perform just because I feel. And watch what happens. The moment fades, the fire cools. And what's left is clarity. Because your feelings are valid, but not all of them deserve the stage. Some deserve to be honored in silence. And that silence, that stillness, that's where your real leverage lives. Now that you've stopped performing, let's add the next move. The delay principle, where every second you wait becomes a weapon. Strategy 2. The delay principle. Buy time, buy power. One of the sharpest traits of emotionally dangerous people. They don't rush, not because they're passive, but because they understand timing is control. In a reactive world, where people fire off emotions like bullets, stillness becomes a weapon. Let me paint you a picture. You're in a tense conversation. Someone drops a line that's clearly meant to provoke. You're just too sensitive. People can't be honest with you. Old you? You jump in, defend, explain, maybe even snap. But the moment you react instantly, you hand them control. You validate the bait. You lose the frame. Now imagine this instead. You pause. You don't blink. You don't fidget. You let silence flood the space like cold water. 3 seconds, 4, 5. And now they're the one feeling exposed. They're unsure, unsettled, off balance. That's not hesitation. That's rhythmic dominance. Because here's what few people realize. The one who moves first often reveals more, but the one who waits sees more. Marcus Aurelius mastered this art. He believed that urgency was often the enemy of truth. He'd delay his response not to escape, but to inspect. If it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it. Meditations. That's not just Stoic restraint. That's psychological pacing. Here's how to apply this. Next time you feel emotional velocity building, use the 3-second rule. Before you respond, pause, breathe, say silently, "Not everything deserves my speed." In those 3 seconds, you do more than just cool down. You observe, what game are they playing? What do they want me to feel? What happens if I give them nothing? You buy time, and time buys clarity, and clarity, that's where real power lives. Because the mind that doesn't rush is the mind that doesn't get run, and the one who holds the pause holds the frame. But here's the twist. Even when you pause, people will keep digging, prying, trying to find your weakness. So next, let's talk about what you choose to show and how controlled vulnerability makes you more powerful by making you less predictable. Strategy 3. Controlled vulnerability. Show less, mean more. Let's make something clear. Vulnerability is powerful, but only when you're the one choosing when and how it's used. In the wrong hands, vulnerability becomes a script, a weapon, a way for others to access you, influence you, or control you. Here's the problem. Most people treat openness like a moral obligation. They spill their story on day one. They think sharing everything means they're being real. But here's the truth. Being open is not the same as being wise, and being transparent doesn't mean you're in control. Let me give you an example. You're building a connection with someone, a friend, a partner, even a co-worker. Early on, they ask, "So, what's your biggest insecurity?" And you answer, fully, emotionally, unfiltered, you feel seen. But later, that same insecurity gets weaponized, twisted, used in an argument, thrown back at you when your guard is down. Sound familiar? See, you weren't wrong to feel, but you were too quick to hand over the manual to your emotional system. Here's what the Stoics knew. Keep your philosophy ready and your heart guarded. Epictetus controlled vulnerability doesn't mean you're fake. It means you're deliberate. You don't overshare to connect. You connect slowly and see who earns access. Here's how to apply it. Filter by trust, not just comfort. Feeling close in the moment doesn't mean they've earned your depths. Ask yourself, have they proven they can carry what I give them? Share from the scar, not the wound. If something's still raw, protect it, let it heal. Don't offer it up just to feel seen. Use emotional framing. When you do open up, say, "This is something I don't share often, so I'm trusting you with it." Now they know this is sacred ground, because when you show less, everything you do reveal carries more gravity, more weight, more respect. It's not about hiding, it's about holding. Holding your story until the room is safe. Holding your emotions until the moment is wise. Holding your power until it matters. That's emotional maturity. That's cold logic in connection. And once you master this balance, you stop bleeding for validation and start commanding with selectivity. But here's the next move. Even with control, some people will try to push past your perimeter. They'll ask fast, get close too soon, disguise intrusion as curiosity. So how do you protect your energy without looking defensive? Next, let's build real-time emotional boundaries. The invisible lines that no manipulator sees coming, but all of them feel. Strategy 4. Emotional boundaries in conversations. Here's a truth no one teaches us growing up. Every conversation is a negotiation, not just of words, but of emotional access. And if you're not aware of that, you'll give away far more than you realize. You've felt it before. Someone keeps asking questions that feel just a little too personal. They want to get to know you, but you sense something underneath, a pull, a test, a hook, and you're caught between two instincts, being open or being wise. This is where emotional boundaries come in, because not all pressure is direct. Sometimes it shows up as curiosity, sometimes as closeness, sometimes as fake concern. And if you're not careful, you'll interpret their need to know as your duty to explain. Here's the truth. You are not required to make yourself fully available just because someone asks. Powerful people don't rush to fill silence. They don't over-disclose. They don't let the rhythm of the other person set the tone of the interaction. They stay grounded. They move slowly. They decide what version of themselves shows up. So how do you build emotional boundaries in real time? Use neutral holding lines. Instead of answering right away, say, "That's a deeper conversation than I'm ready for today." Or, "I keep that part of my life pretty private." No anger, just clarity. Watch the pacing. If someone's asking fast, personal, intimate questions early on, slow it down, redirect, or disengage. Be okay with not explaining yourself. You don't owe context for every no, every silence, every boundary. Marcus Aurelius mastered this. He spoke rarely, but when he did, it wasn't to prove anything. It was to preserve his position. That's what boundaries are, invisible lines that protect your energy. Not by pushing people away, but by keeping yourself intact. And once you've mastered holding your ground, it's time to learn the offensive move. How to withhold emotion strategically, not just to protect yourself, but to disrupt the control of others. Let's talk about emotional flatlining. Strategy 5. Withhold to disrupt control. Sometimes, the most effective way to break someone's control over you isn't to argue, isn't to fight back. It's to give them nothing, no reaction, no validation, no emotional signal to work with. Because here's what most people don't see. Manipulation isn't always loud, it's not always dramatic. Sometimes it comes in quiet pressure, a sigh, a guilt trip, a passive-aggressive dig designed to pull a response out of you. And the moment you give them that response, even a sigh, a shift in tone, a look, they know they've struck something real. They've gained emotional leverage. But if you withhold, if you keep your posture steady, your tone neutral, your energy unreadable, you disrupt the game. You kill the momentum. You pull the plug on their control. This is what we call the emotional flatline. Not cold, not robotic, just unavailable to the reaction they want. Let's walk through a scenario. Someone says, "I guess you just don't care anymore, huh?" Your old self might have said, "That's not fair. Of course I care. I've done this and that." But now, you pause, you look at them, and you say calmly, "You're free to think that." Then silence. No defense, no apology, no performance, just quiet sovereignty. Because when you withhold your emotional response, you force them to sit with their own tension, their own projection, their own narrative. And that silence, that blank space where they expected noise, that's where the real disruption happens. You stop playing their game, and they lose their grip on you. This is why Stoics didn't chase arguments. They didn't match chaos. They didn't let others script their behavior. They chose stillness, not as retreat, but as a calculated refusal to be drawn into someone else's emotional battlefield. And now we arrive at the final move. You've protected your space. You've stayed calm under pressure. But what happens after the moment? Let's talk about how to turn withheld emotions into stored inner power. Strategy 6. The inner ledger. Save power like currency. Every time you don't react, every time you withhold an emotion instead of spilling it, you're not just being calm, you're saving power. Think of it like this. Most people treat emotion like cash with holes in their pockets. They spend it as soon as it shows up. On arguments that don't matter, on people who don't deserve access, on situations that are already beneath them, and by the end of the day, they feel drained, exposed, scattered. But the ones who practice emotional withholding, they operate differently. They treat emotional energy like a currency, something to invest, not something to leak. And every time they choose to pause, to stay silent, to let the moment pass without a performance, they add to something deeper, an inner ledger, a quiet mental record that says, "I stayed in control today. I didn't let them pull me in. I held the frame, I held the line, I held me." And over time, that record builds something almost no one else has: psychological capital, the ability to stay steady when others shake, to speak with weight because you're not always speaking, to act from depth because you haven't been emptied by noise. Here's how to apply this. Create a private ritual. Every day, write down one moment you withheld when you could have reacted, just one. Attach identity to it. Say to yourself, "This is who I am now. I don't give away what's sacred." Track the shift. Over weeks, you'll notice less exhaustion, fewer regrets, deeper presence. Because that's what emotional withholding really gives you. Not just power over others, but peace within yourself. You stop being a puppet of the moment, and you become a steward of your own energy. That's inner wealth, and no one can take it. Now you know how to withhold in the moment, but what does it look like to build a full life of quiet power? Let's bring it all together. Then I'll show you what to watch next. The silence they can't read is the one they fear. Let's be clear. You're not withholding because you're afraid. You're not silent because you're weak. You're not guarded because you're cold. You're choosing silence because you've outgrown chaos, because you've realized your emotions are sacred. And sacred things aren't thrown into every conversation, every withheld reaction, every breath you took instead of firing back, every moment you sat with discomfort instead of escaping it, wasn't a loss of power. It was the construction of it. Because when you stop bleeding your energy for every situation, you start owning your presence in every room, and the people around you, they may not understand it, but they will feel it. That stillness, that edge, that unreadability, that's emotional danger, and it doesn't announce itself, it just is. So, if this spoke to something in you, if you're done with being emotionally predictable and ready to become untouchable, then here's your next move. Watch. Become emotionally unreachable. 5 Stoic tactics for quiet control. In that video, you'll learn how to not just withhold emotion, but to become a presence so calm, so unreadable, that no one knows how to move you. And that's the real power, not being louder, but being less available to their chaos.